What's going on, everyone? You know what day it is, Jack?
It's Tuesday.
That means it's Tier List Tuesday. Everybody loves tier lists. Everybody loves Tuesdays. Why not slap them together?
That's right. That's right. Everyone loves chaos. It's the year of chaos, I've been told.
You know, it could be Thousand Suns Thursday. We could have thought of that. But it's okay because we're on Tier List Tuesday.
It is Tier List Tuesday. All right, we're here talking about the dustiest boys.
I'm super excited. I think Thousand Suns are a super duper cool army. I've actually been playing them a lot more on our channel. I've been playing them on Thursday in the War Room against you, Mr. Snacks.
Are you playing the Army of Renown?
I am not. I'm playing regular old Thousand Suns versus your Custodians.
Oh, boring. But yeah, you could be doing the Zangor business.
I'm doing the Thousand Suns business. So you can check that out if you're not a War Room member yet. That's where we teach tons of premium content. We got coaching games. So if you like our YouTube games, this is like even better, and there's 2 of them. And then also we have strategy sessions where we teach you the high-level thoughts the top players have, Meta Mondays, faction clinics, you name it. And you get access to an awesome Discord channel full of like-minded people who are just trying to get better at the game and enjoy their hobby more. So if you're not a Warden member yet, please check it out. There's a link right below.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All
right, starting with the A's. Well, we got, let's talk about our tier list. We got Torment Staples up here, self-explanatory, strong, perfectly balanced, and flawed choice. And then we got Collecting Dust. This is for those choices that...
all is dust, Jack.
That's right. All is dust, and these are dustier than most.
As always, we're a competitively focused channel, so don't get all nitpicky about our... we're not going to figure out if the models look cool when we react to the sim, their paint jobs, the fluff, the narrative. None of that matters to us. We're just talking about their competitive usage on the table.
Now, sometimes we will run something that belongs in flawed choice or collecting dust because it's fun.
Yeah, it's super cool.
But we know what we're doing when we run it.
So
let's start off with the A's. We're starting off with Airmen.
And Mr. Ahriman. He casts the spells. He does the glamour. He does the weaver. He does the offense. Whatever you want. He rerolls his casts. He's pretty tough to kill. He can ride a disc or just be on foot to save you some points.
Yeah.
And he's your only guy who casts 3, denies 3, which is awesome.
He might deny 2.
No, enough.
It doesn't matter.
And he can go in any cult, which is amazing.
Yeah, he rerolls powers too, right?
He just rerolls all his casts.
Which is, I don't know if you know, but Thousand Suns, they want to cast their powers. They
it
want
helps
to get the powers off.
Yeah. So I think he's just in a tournament.
He's just tournament safe.
He's just putting him in. I don't think I've ever seen a Thousand Suns list that doesn't run Armor.
Well, you might in the future because the Army of Renown, which is pretty decent, seems like.
I love your optimism for it, but as you can't run Armor. So you kind of lost me right there.
Yeah. So Thousand Suns, they live and they die by their psychic powers. So when you need them to go off, boom, there's Armor. It's the same reason why Eldar lists include Eldrad.
Exactly, except for mine.
Except for yours, which just looks to gun people.
But you know what? All Thousand Suns lists don't necessarily include cultists.
That's right.
So these guys, they're pretty trashy. In an army that doesn't really have any trash, so they're actually very
Well, what he means by trashy is just a cheap unit to run around and do cheap unit things on a 10-man Terminator brick having to plod over to the objective.
Yeah, you don't want 10 Terminators retrieving Nachman data, but you don't mind 10 cultists doing it. That's not so bad.
That's right.
Raising a banner, just being a screen. Sometimes you want a screen, basic screening. If you're not me, you know how to do it. If you're a War member, you definitely know how to do it.
If you're Nick, you don't.
Sometimes you just forget. But cultists there for screening and easy strangleholds, all those kinds of things. I don't actually run any in my army because they're kind of pricey for being a trash unit, but they are really useful.
Yeah, don't they have a restriction in there, right? You can't include a certain number of them.
I believe you can't include more of them than you have Rubric Marines or maybe just Terminator and Rubric Marines in general, but I don't think that's really a problem because you'll want to include those Terminators and Rubrics.
Yeah, they are all right. They suffer for the comparison to Zangors, I think.
Yeah.
Because Zangors are like barely more expensive and just toughness 4 with an invuln.
Yeah, so you get like more bang for your buck on a Zangor body instead of a Cultist body for not too much more.
It's like, I think they're like 2 more points per model. I think there's 7 for Zangor and 5 for Cultists.
I think it's a perfectly balanced choice. You want to run some Cultists, more power to you. Don't spam them out, they're not for that, but you take a 10-man and you just use it to just be a unit. That's a fine choice.
The main thing is this army is very elite and it's very pricey, so having a cheap unit that sucks but just runs around, holds an objective behind a wall in the backfield that literally anyone can do, so have a 50-point unit doing it.
All right, now we're talking my language here. Mr. Good Old Defiler.
The Defiler.
So same thing with Death Guard we went through last week with the stats and all that. He's got the battle cannon. You can give him a Defiler Scourge. He's actually pretty decent in close combat.
And he's like 195.
And then he's like 100. Yeah, he's expensive. But he's a 1,000 Suns dude, right? So you can give him a Forpin where you can make him -1 to hit. So you can make him kind of tanky and beefy. He still has the good old-fashioned I'm a Defiler problem of he's got 6 legs and he's very hard to maneuver around the table and so easily move, block your tri-point or any of that.
He's very easy to stop from moving, and also his damage is just very not good.
It's inconsistent to say the least.
Yeah, you can buff him up as much as you want, and then he walks in and like takes 3 wounds off a Rhino, and you're like, damn.
And then it's not only that, it's you can always say, like begin before Binville, put prescience on him, put this on him, put that on him, but then you can put all those spells on a good unit, like Terminators, and then they're a great unit.
Yeah, spoiler alert, he's not a good unit. You can make him a little better if you want, but then you're not putting that stuff on anything else.
I think he's collecting dust.
I think he's currently collecting dust. We'll see what's... They very clearly want you to use the Thousand Sun specific stuff, so we'll see what they come out with in CSM to make you want to use Defilers.
Defilations.
You're going to defilate people.
Not as much as this Demon Prince is going to defilate people. So Demon Princes are really interesting at Thousand Suns.
Yeah.
They cast 2. You can give them wings. I recommend giving them wings so they fly around stuff and they're not move blocked and all that. Although there's a Warlord trait, Aether Stride I believe it's called, which lets you basically functionally counters fly and add 3 to your moves. So you could go cheapskate on wings and buy them this Warlord trait instead, or you could stack that with your wings to get them going places.
Yeah, but you are doubling up on fly, which doesn't really do very much. Yeah, I mean, you can make him pretty quick. You can make him...
He's one of your only good mobile combat pieces, unless you're springing for Magnus, but that's like a whole different type of thing.
It's a whole different ballgame.
Not much in Thousand Suns has fly, and like Zangor and Enlightened, when we get to them, you'll find out. But Demon Prince actually decent in close combat, actually has fly keyword, moves faster than 5. Very good for all those reasons. He's also a pretty good psyker.
Yeah, you can swap him in for an Exalted Sorcerer. He provides the same amount of Cabal points.
Yeah. Thanks to you guys for subscribing to the channel and becoming members, joining the podcast. Appreciate all of you. But this Demon Prince, so he, I think he's like exactly what you said. I look for him as an upgrade to an Exalted Sorcerer. I'm going to take an Exalted Sorcerer to sit there and cast powers. I could turn him into a Demon Prince, so he still sits there and casts powers, but now I have the flexibility to go do stuff with him.
Yeah, I think he's probably not super worth it most of the time. But it is an upgrade that you can take, and it is good. Like, including him is like, what was it, like 70 more points, 60 more points, something like that with wings? Right. And he is worth those points, but you may just want those points into, like, troops.
Well, if you have the Exalted Sorcerer on a disc, he's not even that much more point for point. I think he's a perfectly balanced choice. You could run one if you want. They're like good. Yeah.
Yeah, I could totally agree with that. I don't think it's the direction you want to go most of the time, but it's a decent choice if you want to do it.
I've definitely considered it in like most of my Thousand Suns lists.
Now let's talk about Enlightened.
Zangor Enlightened.
I actually think Zangor Enlightened are quite good.
I think they're very useful in 3-man skirmishy squads to go out there, be 54-point little screens. I come from like an Eldar perspective when I say this, but like 3-man jet bikes, 3-man reavers, they've always been money for me. These are like kind of very bad versions of that, but you can warp time them, temporal surge them to get them that same 24-inch move capacity.
In the Army of Renown, they get a lot better. You can resurrect them, you can give them bonuses, things like that.
You love this Army of Renown.
I do.
You do.
I do.
You do.
I think it's actually pretty good. It's very different to standard T-Suns, but I just want to mention it when we're talking about Enlightened. I think they do get a lot better in the Army of Renown, and I think they're decent in general T-Suns just as a 3-man skirmish unit. But in the Army of Renown, you can really consider taking them as a 9-man. Or a 6-man. I think they only go up to 6.
Yeah.
I think you can take them as a 6-man in that, for sure.
I don't know if I'd ever run 6-mans of these things. Maybe in the Army Realm. I have not explored it, to be honest, although my readings on it don't have me super excited. I am super excited about regular Thousand Suns, though, and these guys definitely have a place in Thousand Suns list. I think these are another perfectly balanced choice.
I think they are. They're not doing anything crazy, even in the Army of Renown, but they're just efficient, I think, because they're cheap. Like, if a 6-man is 108, a 5-man is like 90-something points, I think. So...
yeah, there's a lot of value just being a good fly model that moves around for
and it's cheap. Like, they're great skirmishers, I think.
Now we've got the Exalted Sorcerer. We know him, you love him, we talk about him. This guy is your main shindig sorcerer dude. He's got access to the best, what are they called? The upgrades? Sorcerer's packs?
Yeah, he's got Rahadi and Dilettante, I believe, are the 2 good ones.
Yeah, so casting extra powers for Rahadi is great. You can load him up with all your mortal wound spells. You can give him a relic. I like doing this, so you can pass Zinj's Firestorm, cast it on 3d6, pick the 2 highest.
The Athenaean Scrolls.
And the Athenian Scrolls, and then you get them off on 9s, and then they do mortals on 5s. That's pretty good, especially because you're +1 to cast. Although I think it's unmodified. So
it is unmodified, but you roll 3 dice and you're looking for a 9+. So
they carry your relics. You do need somebody to carry your relics. You got good relics in this army, and Armand, who is your tournament staple up there, He unfortunately is a named character who can't carry relics.
Yep.
So this
But
guy's taking
a dilettante, I believe, can take two. And
Yeah.
you're paying points for the first one. There was some debate whether or not, whether you had to still pay the CP in addition to the points. You don't. You just pay the points, you get one relic.
This guy is the Mamba Jamba.
This guy is the Mamba Jamba. Him and Armon are just buddies up there.
Yeah,
just hanging out, just chilling.
They're like high-fiving each other. Yeah. Just like that. Casting powers. You know who else is high-fiving themselves?
But he doesn't have hands.
The Forge Fiend doesn't have hands. He's got extra plasma
high-five
cannons.
anyone.
He's sad panda because he can't high-five. They're actually not so bad, this Demon Engine in particular in Thousand Suns. It's not amazing because it's still got Demon Engine problems.
It's not core, right?
It's not core, so it's not getting rerolls. But it's not a bad shooting platform in an army that doesn't really have long-range shooting platforms. You can... just prescience honestly goes a long way. It already hits on 3, so making it hit on 2s is kind of good. You can give... It's a vehicle, so Thousand Suns have this strat. I believe it's +1 AP on your attacks and +1 strength for vehicles, and you can even go further with the Infernal Master, giving +1 strength. So it makes your autocannon variations pretty potent.
Yep.
Or you could do the plasma cannons and actually just slap something down. It's not amazing because it's kind of expensive and not that hard to kill, easy to play around at the top levels, but it is not a bad in the same way your random Exorcist isn't bad.
I do think it's generally outplayed, like it's outperformed by Contemptor Dreadnoughts from Forge World, which aren't in the main rulebook, so they're not here, but it does have the problem of comparing itself to a Contemptor Dread, I think.
Definitely. This doesn't cost you the command point, which can be a factor.
It can be, for sure.
Yeah. It's not amazing, I don't run one, but I don't want to just write him off because lol, Forge Fiends.
Yeah, no, I think that most of the Demon Engines are going to end up in this tier, and I think it carries it up to here.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's not the best choice, but I can see what it's going for. Like, it's not pointless.
Yeah.
It's just not the best at its job. Now, talk about Helberts, though.
Talk about something that is lackluster and bad at its job.
No, I like Helberts in Thousand Suns. Okay, I don't love them, but I've actually seen these guys be pretty useful. Because what happens in Thousand Suns is you don't have small stuff. You do have, like, Cultists and stuff, but you don't have in-between stuff. Because, like, you have Terminators, and then you have Rubrics, and you're like, everything else is just paper thin. So I only have expensive squads. And there's not that in-between expensive squad and cheap unit kind of price point, like the 80-point unit type thing I'm talking about. That doesn't really exist. Enter the Rhino and the Helbrute. These guys just wander around. Helbert's a little more pricey.
Helbert's like 120.
He's like 120. But he wanders around and he like hits stuff in close combat. Thousand Suns really have big combat issues. They like time and time again, someone just charges me. I'm like, damn it, I suck at this.
Yeah, like Terminators are decent in combat, but they fold in combat too quick to actually have them on the front lines that way. And Rubric Marines don't do combat at all.
So what I like about the Helbert is he gives you something you don't have in the form of like an actual combat piece that isn't god-awful at that job. And it's got a 5-up invul, and you also, it's kind of like my stupid Wraith Lord, my Eldar army, where it just like goes out there and requires a response from your opponent, so you get the trade war going like that.
Nick, I'm going to keep it 100 with you. This guy's terrible. I tried playing a bunch of them in a Thousand Suns list against Mark. I did it on stream, and I got clapped like a round of applause. It was bad.
No, I do remember.
They moved 6 inches.
I do remember trying this myself, and it was bad. And I watched it recently at the GW Seattle Open, where someone ran, I think, a pair of these, or maybe 3 of them even, and they didn't do anything.
No, they really are just cool, very much in theory. And then when you put them on the table, they do absolutely nothing. And you're like, damn, these were 120 points.
Man, I talked up such a game.
Yeah, that's why I had to cut in. Yes, you're welcome, Charles S. No problem. That was heading in a direction I was not comfortable with.
I was having a moment, okay?
They don't do a single thing. You're like 5-up invul.
All right, Jack.
That'll do it. Then they move 6.
Tell me about your Heldrich.
Well, we have some questions here in chat about Chaos Knights.
This isn't about Chaos
in Thousand
Knights.
Suns, but Thousand Suns can bring in a Dreadblade unit of Chaos Knights. So, having looked at Chaos Knights, I do think Thousand Suns there would be a place in that army for a Dreadblade unit of not a big knight, not a quest or whatever the tiers are called, Questoris or Dominus class, the Chaos ones. I think you want the Armigers, the War Dogs. So I think you could use a unit of 3, like Bold Tyrant Executioners could be really good for that damage 3 shooting, and then if you're within 18 inches, it goes up to AP 3, which seems very strong. Or you could go with Brigands or Stalkers. Stalkers fill a little combat role with, I believe it's the Chain Cannon Claw guy. Those guys are pretty good. And then the Brigands with the Chain Cannon Melta Spear, those are also really good. So I think a 3-pack of one of those, you can take Bold Tyrants and anything that's a Chain Cannon or the Executioners could be pretty solid. Or you can look over the chart. I don't have it memorized the same way I do Imperial Knights, but that would be very interesting for unit of those. Fill in a little of that shooting punch, especially against harder targets. But
Heldrich time?
Heldrich time!
Heldrich time! Good God, everybody. All right, so Heldrichs, Jack, why don't you break down Heldrichs for me? You like them? You hate them?
To be honest, it's like the one unit in the book that I don't really know what it does. It like flies kind of far, it charges, and then I looked at how damaging it is in combat, and I wasn't that impressed. And then it like flames a little. What does it do?
So it's got a choice between the autocannon and the flamer. You're probably going to take the flamer because rolling a hit sucks, and you like auto hits. And it's not that many shots, so you really can appreciate the auto hits. It flies pretty far. It's not a flyer, so it's just like a really fast flying unit. And then it charges something. So what it does is exactly what you said. It shoots a flamer. It's strength 6, AP 2, 2 damage, d6 shots. So it's like okay at doing something, but d6 shots is random.
Yeah.
And then it's like mediocre in combat. I think it's got 4 or 5 attacks. It's like strength 7. It's decent versus flyers, or other units with fly, I should say, because it gets like +1 to hit or something. And then it also has the vector strike ability. So 1 CP, you fly over a unit, do d3 mortals on a 2+. 3 mortals to a unit with fly, which is not bad. But what it does practically for your army is it lets you go really fast in an army that doesn't go really fast. It can catch smites for your Terminators, because it can always just fly right between your Terminators and your opponent, because it flies 1,000 inches. So it lets you interact with things like Malceptor spam or whatever other smite spam you, which Mortal Wounds is a big problem for Thousand Suns. And it can go assassinate a character if your opponent messes up their screening, because people are not used to fighting a tank that just flies 30 inches and charges you.
That's true. People aren't used to that. I do remember that it just doesn't do that much damage in combat. It runs in, it's got like 4 attacks at damage 2 or something. It just bounces, and then you're like, oh, cool, you're dead. You
can do the whole, if you're going to go for the flyer attack a character thing, it's unreliable at best, and then same thing, like I would only go for it if the flamer is hitting him, the stats kind of line up right, and I'd probably put prescience on the dude if I could.
But flamer d6 shots also, strength 6, AP 2, damage 2. If you roll a 6, it's awesome. If you roll a 1 or a 2, it literally did nothing for an entire turn because its combat's not that reliable and its shooting's not that reliable. I say...
Apparently it is a flyer. I think it's a flawed choice. It's not that bad. There's reasons to run. It's not that expensive. It's 170. It's not cheap, but it's not.
170?
It's a flame with a 5-up invul and a bunch of attacks and stuff. It's fast enough that it's a flawed choice. Speed is really important.
It's a flyer, so it can't hold objectives, can't do any of that stuff.
It can hover mode. It charges stuff.
Fine.
Yes.
Not happy about it.
Yes.
I am...
remembering all. This is 2d3 flamers. This is much better.
If it is 2d3, then it's a flawed choice, I think.
Yeah, for real.
So we've got a $5 super chat from Shackleton Mangrum. Says, been listening since the very first episode of the Art of War podcast years ago. Consider this a down payment for all the content you've produced.
I appreciate that, Shackleton Mangrum. It's an interesting way to do a down payment, but yeah, I do appreciate your support, and thanks for the years of listening. That means a lot.
Thank you so much. You've been with us since the beginning, and that means a lot.
All right.
5 attacks in combat,
This seems like not terrible.
Listen, that made me just happy about it being in flawed choice, not resentful about it being in flawed choice.
And that's what we're going for.
It's not moving it up.
Tournament staple.
All right. The Infernal Master.
So this is like your Thousand Suns version of a chaplain. You basically pick 2 abilities at the start of the game from a chart of 6 different abilities. Start of your turn, you roll a 3-up, and then if you hit it, you get your abilities. You have to pick one of your 2. So the 2 most commonly taken ones are just a free reroll, like the old Gaze of Fate spell. You can use it on anything. It's not a CP, so you can break up weird d6s. You can, like multi-d6 rolls, you can break up them and reroll one of the dice. You could,
which is something that 9th edition doesn't really have anymore.
Right. And then you can use it for things outside the norm, like CP you can only use on hit, wound, saves, advanced rolls, that kind of thing. This thing you could use on like 1 die of a spell, or like my roll to summon a unit or some weird thing like that.
Yeah. I think the Infernal Master is pretty good. He gives you 2 Cabal points as well when you bring him along with you, and he knows 1 casts 1, so he does...
He's a psyker.
He's a psyker, so he fills in that rule as well.
He also gets to carry a relic, which is a problem for this army.
Yep, because you're taking at least 1 named character in Armon.
Yeah, you don't want to overdo the the number of characters in your army, because that's a recipe for getting your army to have like 7 models in it.
Yes, yeah. If you take like 7 characters and you have all these cool combos, then your army has 1 unit. It's like, oh, that sucks.
Yeah. So I think this guy, I wouldn't call him a tournament staple, but I think he's a strong choice.
I think he's a strong choice.
His other Infernal Pact is that he can just make a unit +1 strength. So you really want to put this
in shooting, right?
In shooting.
On shooting, which is lower.
There's a lot of places you could put it. It's nice on the Volkite Dread, make it strength 7. It's nice on your Terminator unit. Strength 5 is amazing these days. There's so much toughness 5 out there.
Because you can then +1 to wound them, so you go from wounding like medium-sized nids on 5s to wounding them on 3s.
Yeah, it's tremendous to do. It's a great break point, which makes him very useful. In different metas, I think his value probably goes down, but today he's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. You want to talk about something that isn't awesome?
I think it's pretty awesome. Thousand Suns Land Raider. I mean, everyone's running one of the top tables. It's been running.
I see it everywhere.
Every Goonhammer article talks about these things.
It's literally why it's interesting in 9th. It isn't.
I mean, when's the last time we haven't had a Land Raider on stream?
When's the last time we had one?
The Apocalypse Battle.
Is that really? We didn't have an Iron Hands game that had one in?
I don't know. That's a question for John's memory.
That is. His memory is notoriously good.
You know where this thing's going, Jack? On the shelf. Where it's better. It's worse than the Helbert. Get the Helbert. Helbert is the top of this pile.
Helbert, listen, fight me, buddy.
Helbert is the top. I'm fighting you.
No, it's so overcosted. It's crazy. It's like $265, I think. I think it was $285.
We've moved back to the Helbert. We're past the Land Raider.
The Helbert is going to be the worst thing in this entire book.
No, it's not. That's lying to the audience.
It scarred me.
Well, you can be scarred.
Okay, I'm not White Scars. This is Thousand Suns.
You know who's not scarred? Magnus. He did nothing wrong. Look, a fluff joke.
So Magnus is whether he's good or not is meta dependent. If you're in a meta where people are packing long range anti-tank, then he's down here.
He's so polarizing. He's amazing when your opponent can't deal with him. He's just like, he runs the show. He mortal wounds everything. He flies around. He chops something in half.
He stops all the Nid's psychic powers. That is apparently an actual real issue in that matchup.
Magnus was hard for my Eldar to fight. He just picks powers and just stops them. Like, no, sorry.
No, that's not happening. 3d6 deny and then re-rolling it and then +3 or +2.
There are armies that just end him like no one's tomorrow. You go second versus the right tab build, goodbye. Get off my table.
Yeah,
go second versus the right Eldar build, goodbye.
I watched Matt Ali play Magnus against
Andrew
Gagno's 4 Hammerhead build, and he started him in reserves and brought him in turn 3 and then immediately died.
Yeah,
it was brutal.
He's so polarizing, which actually makes me kind of feel like he's a balanced choice as a big, huge monster. Because like, there's some games where he's insane, and then there's some games where he sucks butt. And
that is around where I'm thinking. Because if your opponent is like Nids, where they don't have great long range shooting, or honestly, a lot of the metagame, like Space Marines, don't have great long range shooting at the moment. There's a decent amount of armies that just can't pick him up turn 1, and then he is amazing. Then he is really good.
I wouldn't call him balanced because I think he's either amazing or terrible, but as an average, he's balanced.
Yeah, I mean, he is Schrodinger's balanced.
We do have to call out Shackleton Mangrum for a second super chat a day, and here's the real start of repaying you for those years of content. Also, tell John to start reading up on Crusade. I'm coming for that top donor spot. Appreciate your support, Shackleton Mangrum. Thank you so much for the years of support, and your support to our channel really goes a long way to let us keep doing all this. Thanks for all of you subscribers and content consumers. But also, John's playing Crusade. I like that.
You like that?
I like that.
Oh, I like that too. Unfortunately, you can't play Crusade by yourself, Nick, so I think we're all going to have to chip in on that one. You know I'm down for fluffy, weird, campaign-y stuff.
Let's get Siegs involved.
Oh my god. You think John's the hard one to get involved in Crusade? I mean, he is. Siegs will literally tell you no, threaten your life, and then close his door.
So Gansalot over here is asking, are Helbrutes really that bad?
Yes.
What with 4 questions? They're not. They're not. They belong to be... They're better than the Defiler. They're 2 spaces up in that tier list. They're still collecting dust, but they're the best of the collecting dust so far.
Gansalot, here's the thing about a Helbert, right? It moves 6 inches, and it's 120 points base, more if you want to give it a weapon that does literally anything. But then you won't ever be able to use that weapon because it moves 6 inches, and it dies to anything.
We don't need to harp on the Helbert anymore. We need to move on to the Mauler Friend.
Let's move on to Mauler Friend.
Mauler Friend is everybody's friend. He is like what the Helbert wishes he would be. He walks around, he's faster, that base move 10. Look at that. Impressive. He's got more wounds, like a lot more wounds. He's got a lot more attacks. Those Lasher tendrils, they got attacks for days. And then he's like actually good in combat. The problem with him is that he's like move blockable. He's certainly not unkillable by today's standards. He's pretty Average.
Very killable,
Very
actually.
average to kill.
How many points is he roughly? Like
140.
Yeah. It's not bad for something that your opponent can kill.
I've thought about using these like many times.
Yeah, I think it belongs here.
It's better than the Heldrich.
Sorry, my bad. The Heldrich is 2d3. He doesn't shoot.
The Heldrich's in the flawed choice category. That's better than the collecting dust category.
It's true. It's true.
That's where all is
Listen,
dust.
I'm a friend, a Mauler friend, and I can put him up a little higher. He does punch, which is quite nice, and he does force your opponent to deal with him, which is interesting. And it is combat in an army that really wants it.
Yeah.
So that does help.
His biggest problem is like no fly keyword. You give him fly keyword, tournament staple. 3 of them.
Maybe perfectly balanced.
So anyway, talk about perfectly balanced. The Mutalith Vortex Beast.
Yeah.
Jack, why don't you run down what this guy does for us?
So he does a lot of things, Nick. He has a weird ability every turn that basically boils down to find out how I'm going to do mortal wounds to my opponent. And that's really it. Like you roll a die and then you do mortal wounds. And for some reason, you're rolling a die beforehand because he does mortal wounds in a variety of different ways. Do you pick off the chart, or
You can pick off the chart.
You can, or
you can roll 2.
You roll
you can
two,
roll 2
or
or
you
pick
pick
1.
And he has some good ones in there. I think there's a 9-inch aura of like on a 4+ do D3.
That's the best one.
That's the best one, and you just pick that when you're.
There's also a targeted mortal wound one. The rest of them kind of suck. You're probably just going to pick one every turn, but they're all relatively short range or require line of sight, so you're not actually going to get to apply this to the units you want to, especially not in the beginning turns, maybe like mid-game.
It is a big threat. If this thing hits the center of your army and then goes 9-inch bubble, like that's a.
It doesn't do as much as you think it does. It's like
That's probably true.
It's like every other unit takes 2 mortals
Good.
for 140 points on turn 3.
It also
if you
has.
set
It
up.
also isn't terrible in combat.
It's not terrible. It degrades
14
very
wounds,
poorly,
right?
which is unfortunate. When it degrades, it doesn't have. I don't remember if it has an armor save. I think it's got a 4-up armor save and a 5-up invul. Almost all times can be taken as 5-up invul. It's like toughness 7. It's 14 wounds. It's kind of chonky like that, but it just degrades so poorly. It it goes down a move, and then it goes down in like effectiveness of the spell. So I think that 4 becomes a 5-up and stuff.
Yeah.
And then when it's in the bottom tier, like forget it, it's moving like 3 inches. Like it's got a big base profile, so to me it's like got the similar type of problem as a Mauler Fiend, like move blocking and terrain is going to be an issue for it. And as a combat piece, I'd much rather have a Mauler Fiend. As a damage dealer,
I think it's better than a Mauler Fiend.
I think it's worse than a Mauler Fiend.
It's more durable. I'm more scared of it than a Mauler Fiend. Mauler Fiend will just kill
You're
you.
just really afraid of this mortal wound thing.
There's mortal wound me.
That wasn't English. See my point exactly.
It could just mortal wound.
It can. This thing sucks. Put it after.
Nope. They're not looking at each other.
They should look at each other. That could be a cinematic moment. So just do it for see what it looks like.
They're looking at each other.
Do it. No, they're not. They're like not even the same. Just see what it looks like. Just see what it looks like. That looks better. That looks better.
I don't believe it.
Okay, it goes there. All right. Chaos Predator. Man,
All right.
what are we even doing here, folks?
So
This thing hasn't been good since like 4th edition, 5th maybe.
yeah, probably. I mean, there was that formation or whatever you could take with them.
Oh yeah, kill shot.
Yeah, you could kill shot people.
You can't do that anymore.
Can't do that anymore, and even then, it was kind of questionable.
This thing's been collecting dust.
How much? Do you know how much they are?
They're like 120 with just the top gun, and then you can upgrade the autocannon that it starts as to a las cannon to make it like 140, and then you can add your choice of heavy bolters or las cannons to the side to make it all the way up to like 190.
Yeah, that's about right, actually. at no price point in there. Like, you can pick how much you want your useless predator to cost, but it will be bad at every price point in there. Like,
There's no
really
combination of auto las heavy bolter that gets you to okay.
Yeah, like 140 for quad las, I could be like, okay, that's decent. 190 or I think it's 175, 170. But even so, you're just like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is collecting dust. It's just so hideously overcosted. They just need to drop the points like 30 to 40.
You know what's not hideously overcosted? Rhinos, the humble rhino.
Reno, Nevada?
Reno, Nevada. Rhinos are humble. They just drive around, they do stuff. They're 80 points. They have a 5 in your army, which is really nice because usually they don't. And they soak overwatches. They bump into stuff to make them not have to fall back or do something.
They just do this to your
It's really annoying.
constantly.
Like,
Yeah, right?
Constantly annoying. They don't invest in it. Don't give them guns or anything like that. That's silly. But just drive them around. They advance. They can catch your smites, like similar to the Heldrich, but cost half.
Because for
as
an
much.
army that smites a lot,
Really doesn't
Oh my
like...
god, it's 140 with just an autocannon.
So don't take the Predators.
My brain is literally breaking at how bad Predators are. But yeah, for an army that casts powers so much, you really don't like being smited back. You're expensive guys, and you have no feel, no pains against
against the armies that have Overwatch. It's really nice to have something to eat that Overwatch. You don't have small stuff in Thousand Suns, so you got to get creative about what your small stuff is.
Yeah. You have one that's really good, and then you have Zangor Enlightened. But then after that, Rhinos are just really annoying to kill, especially with Armor of Contempt. Rhinos with Armor of Contempt
And a
are just
obnoxious.
obnoxious.
So, and like, I don't really love putting Plague Marines in them because I actually like Plague Marines on the table to get you your Cabal points. But they're not bad to just drive Plague Marines around.
This is where I put them right now, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're perfectly balanced.
I think they're better than Zangor Enlightened.
I like Zangor Enlightened.
I know you do.
I'll give you this one because I...
Because you destroyed the flawed choice tier. The flawed choice and the collecting dust is
Fine.
Jack's like pile of wrongness.
There we go. All right, so I didn't give you that. I give you that.
That's
they're looking
better.
at each
I'll
other. They're
accept that.
smooching.
I'll accept that.
All right. We've got Rubric Marines.
This is actually, finally, after literally decades, a good unit.
Yep, it was... I can't remember when it was ever a good unit.
Until now.
Yep.
They walk around, they're like 1 point more than an Intercessor, which is like amazing, because comparatively they're so much better than an Intercessor.
Yep.
They have all his dust, but they're not collecting dust. Don't get that wrong.
No, they are... Everything is dust.
All is dust.
All is they are the dust that the things are collecting.
So what that means is against damage 1 weapons, they're going to get +1 to their armor save, which stacks with Armor of Contempt.
Yep, because +1 to the armor save is not the same as reducing the AP. So they reduce incoming AP and they increase their armor save by 1, and they're probably in cover. So it's just ludicrously hard to shift these guys.
I was shooting them with Hail of Doom, and they're just taking 2. So I'm like, what is happening?
They're just really obnoxious to kill for their points cost. And their shooting isn't terrible.
Their shooting is not bad, as Bolter's doing Bolter stuff, but they have a Sorcerer, right? So you can pay 10 more points, give them a banner. So the Sorcerer will give you a Cabal point, the banner will give you a second Cabal point. Cabal points kind of make your army go round. And then the Sorcerer has access to a spell. He just casts 1, deny 1. So the utility of the unit goes through the roof. In Duplicity, they can just teleport. That's my favorite one. But in other chapters, they do other stuff. They can also just take a spell. So I like to give them all Doombolt, which is a trick I learned at the Dallas Open from my opponent, Nick. Not me. He had this really cool thing, and I've been using it. It's really good. He would put Doombolt on his like all his Rubik squads had Doombolt. And then just like random Rubik squad, be like, Doombolt for flat 3. I'm going to spend a CP, cast a Smite as my second power, and then spend 4 Cabal points, and the Smite does 2d3 mortals. So it's 3 plus 2d3 mortals for 4 Cabal points, which you just, like, the unit provides 2 of them, and a CP. And that just happens from, like, any random squad all over the table.
Yeah, having access to it anywhere is really good.
Yeah, and then, so that was really enlightening.
And then a different squad can cast Doombolt as well. Because you can cast a spell that somebody else had already done. So this squad can go Doombolt plus 2d3 mortals, and then a second squad can go Doombolt again, and you're just like, oh my god, please stop.
Yeah, and then on top of that, you can give them Warp Flamers, which are actually quite good. A little less good in the world of Armor of Contempt, because everyone's got a better save these days, but against like Eldar, they're amazing, because you can duplicate yourself onto the opponent's side of the board with the spell. Duplicate yourself, right, Jack?
It's duplicity, not duplication, but continue.
And then when the Flamers arrive in the Psychic phase, it's after the movement phase, so you don't get to use your Auspex scan type stuff, that reinforcement phase, shoot them immediately type strats, intercept as we call them, so the Flamers just get the flame. That's awesome. This is a tournament staple. What are we even talking about?
I would agree. It is a tournament staple.
This is ahead of Armon. This is your bread and butter.
No, Armon's better. I'll put him ahead of this.
Yeah. All right.
All right. We got a Sorcerer.
Regular. So they're actually,
Sorcerer.
I mean, they're cheaper. They're the cheapest HQ slot that actually does something.
They have access to their own tier of upgrades, which is nice. There's a reason to take them over an Exalted Sorcerer. There's a reason to take Exalted Sorcerer over them. They cast 2, I believe.
They cast 2.
So they're still competent psychers.
Yeah.
They give you 2 Cabal points instead of 3, which is a big deal. And they don't get Rahadi or Dilettante as they upgrade.
Which are the best ones.
They get other ones. They get Warrior Wizard or whatever it's called, where they can reroll a die when they're manifesting their powers. Mm-hmm. Like they can reroll a die whenever to determine number of
I believe that's just the Terminator Sorcerer. which we'll get to in a second.
Is it just the Terminator?
Yeah, they're a little bit different. But
Okay.
this guy's really just like a cheap sorcerer. I think he's perfectly fine. He's a balanced or strong. You can take him, he's fine. But again, I don't like having too many characters in my Thousand Suns. I think that's a trap you can fall into with list building.
It's Witch Warrior, that's what it is. I do think that he's like here.
I think the Prince is better than him.
You think Prince is better?
I think the Prince is better.
And then the Terminator Sorcerer, I think, could go up to strong choice because you get access to Witch Warrior.
Witch Warrior is what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the one where you can...
Wait, Witch Warrior?
Witch Warrior.
I think if you want to make a Mortal Wound man, he can do it, and you can also snipe out characters with him.
Yeah.
Because you give him Athenaean Scrolls, and then you throw out the 9 dice every... Hopefully 5+ is immortal, and then you throw a D3 on top of that, and then I think there's another spell you can attempt to drop on them. I think Gaze of Hate. So between Gaze of Hate that rerolls a die and the Firestorm that rerolls a die, and then you do D3 on top of that, I'm pretty sure you can get a character out of most people out that way.
Yeah.
It is a little unreliable, but it is an interesting thing that nobody else can really do as efficiently as him.
I think putting him in strong choice is a little high. I've used him a few times, and I kind of am disappointed with him. For the similar reason I don't like the Grey Knight library in Grey Knights, where the dude's just designed to immortals, he's awesome on paper, it doesn't translate well to the table. But like on paper, I do agree.
I could see putting him down here then.
Yeah, let's put him down there.
Okay. Let's talk the biggest boys, the dusty boys.
The question is not do you take Scarab Occult Terminators, it's how many Terminators do you take?
Yes. 20 currently, I think, was the...
20, 30, 40,
Can you get
50,
up to 30?
60?
You certainly can't do 40 to 60. But
Not in an Eternal War Strike Force mission, but there's Apocalypse,
Unbound,
everybody.
you can do whatever you want.
So these guys are great. They're super tough to kill. They also stack all his dust with Armor of Contempt with cover, and they have a better base save, so they're just like the toughest Terminator in the game. 5-up invul, which is unfortunate. Would love to 4-up, but you can cast a spell for that. -1 to hit is also available to them. They can teleport around Duplicity, which I think is super powerful because the mobility is a problem. Some people run them in Cult of Time, which lets you heal not only 1, but 2 models per turn.
Yeah, there are hoops you can jump through to res one of them. If you cast a power on a 9+, then...
But you can, like, manufacture.
Right, you can manufacture it through jumping through some hoops. But if you cast a power on a 9+, you 1 CP res a model, which is decent for movement especially, because you move... then a dead guy reses in front of the unit, and then you can charge off that, which is very nice. But what you have to do is you basically have to go smite until the casting value of smite is at a 9. Then you spend the Cabal points in order to auto make them pass at the minimum required value, which is a 9, and then 1 CP res a guy.
You can also just try to roll a 6 on 2 dice, and if you do, you're +1 to cast naturally, and then you can spend 2... or a bunch of Cabal points.
It might be unmodified.
It might be unmodified.
I believe it is actually unmodified.
But that's just different ways you can run Terminators. You're going to put the Soul Reaper cannons on them, you're going to put the Hellfire missiles on them, and you're just going to let these guys do the work.
Honestly, even without all that trickery, they are just good. They're tanky as hell.
They're OBSEC.
They're OBSEC.
They're fearless.
Their Armor of Contempt in cover is just nuts.
In Duplicity, you can select to the last as one of your secondaries in certain matches, and even if you use these guys, they get the crap beaten out of them. You just teleport the one guy out.
Fearless, so like
that's fine.
The Sorcerer is just standing there fearless, just being like, okay, cool. And then you Duplicity him back to your behind a wall, and your opponent will never see him again.
Yeah, these guys are like the best unit in your Codex. Like, that's not a question.
Yeah, I was on board with that. They're just Tonka tough. They shoot so hard, Nick. They shoot so hard. Make it stop.
I will not.
I know.
I will do against you. The Chaos Spawn do.
Chaos Spawn.
So I actually really like Chaos Spawn in 2 different ways in Thousand Suns. Solo Spawn, they're great, they're awesome, they're tournament staples in pretty much every Chaos army because 23 points for a unit that can run out there and go get a Stranglehold and be a screen, especially in an elite army, that's amazing, that's very useful, just take that. The other way I would run them is in just a classic 5-man, and you put 4-up invulns on them because they go from not having a save pretty much to having an awesome save, and then Spawn that goes a long way. They also have a great strat in Thousand Suns.
Yep.
Which gives them access to choosing their ability, which is really nice, and then also getting an additional attack, which is great for their relatively...
Yep. If it was just choose your ability, it wouldn't be that great, but it also gives an attack on top of that, and it's just like, ooh, that's
nice. A great CP.
Yeah.
And then but the compressions, like 4-up invulns, -1 to hit, I know I always say that about every unit, but there are times where you can just present the Spawn and be like, go get them, boys.
Yeah, what is 5 of them
it's 115.
115.
Like, they're like Ravener
so cheap.
And you can Warp Time them, Temporal Surge, as it's called these days, so they can move twice and then charge something.
So they move 14 in charge?
They're
and your opponent has to deal with them, and they're 115, so you just don't care.
And they're like leadership 9.
Really?
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah.
I guess Spawn don't run away.
Spawn, they're too stupid to be fearless.
They're a great recipient of the 4-up invuln. They're a great recipient of +1 to hit. And then you charge someone in combat, they're like, do I really have to take this much time, and -1 to hit too. Do I really have to take this much time to deal with 5 Spawn that cost my opponent almost nothing?
The real
answer is yes.
trick to the Spawn is that unless you buff them, they are made of paper. So you really have to hide them until you're ready to expose them. And then there's only so many good hiding spots on the table, and they're 50 mil bases.
They are very good, especially solo. Just having a 23-point idiot to run out onto the center objective, get Stranglehold, and then your 20 Terminators just shoot him, and then your opponent's like, well, damn, I didn't get to charge anything. You put another solo Spawn on the center objective and just blow him up again. You're like, well, I'm getting all my points, and I haven't lost anything, and you've lost almost your entire army, so now my Terminators are going to push. And that's brought to you by 23-point solo Spawn.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you'd have to put like Terminators in the center objective or something you care about, and you're trading it, and it's not good.
Talk about non-committal secondary getters. We got the Zangor Shaman up in here. So this guy gives you, I believe, bonuses to hit, maybe +1 hit or reroll hit.
He gives Zangors +1 to hit.
Zangors +1 hit, which is fine if you're dealing down this ridiculous Army of Enlightened path with the Zangors.
So the thing about the Army of Renown is it's basically like Terminators already have a 5-up invuln, so you don't mind losing that. And so then you just take a bunch of Terminators and then you fill out your troops with Zangor that get resurrected.
You're losing me at losing 2 of our tournament staples here. I actually like those units. Now, Armand and the Rubric Brains aren't here because I have to take them.
Yeah, but you make these guys real good. Like a 20-man brick is 140, and you're just like, yeah, a bunch of them are going to come back every turn.
So if you are going to play the Army of Renown and run a ton of Zangors, you're running this guy. You might even run a couple of these guys. But even if you're not, I actually think I'm going to include one in my regular 1,000.
In the Army of Renown, they actually get an extra Cabal point, I believe.
Even better. So anyway, in a regular 1,000 Suns army, I do think there is value to running them as well, because one problem I've encountered in my playtesting so far is that when I take a Psychic secondary, I don't actually have anyone who wants to go do it, because it usually has to be a character accomplishing the task, like Psychic Ritual or Psychic Interrogation. So then Armand's busy, my Exalted Sorcerer's busy, Infernal Master, I guess, but then he's going to die. So this guy is really cool because he comes on a disc. So he can fly out there, catch your Psychic Ritual, cast your Psychic Interrogation, then you can just warp time his ass right back. Or lose him. He's 70 points. It's no big deal.
Yeah,
just get the job done.
I think he's up here in strong choice.
I think he's
just
good.
Just as a cheap, fast, non-committal Psyker, I like him.
And so if you even think about it in terms of skirmishing unit, he's 16 more points than 3 Enlightened, and he is also a Psyker.
Yes, he doesn't
have quite the width.
He doesn't kill anything. He doesn't.
Neither do they.
They kill skirmishing units.
Maybe. So then we've got 10 Zangors. All right, Zach, it's your time to shine.
All right. So in the Zangor Army of Renown, in the Warp Melt Pact, I believe is what it's called, you get a variety of things. First off, you get better Spawn and you get better Zangors. And you can resurrect Zangors, and you can resurrect Enlightened in like a pulse around your characters every turn. So you just get a bunch back, and then you can do a. I think there's a way to get even more back. So like one unit will get a bunch back, and then everything will get some amount back. And so that's very powerful, honestly, because they're very cheap and they are toughness 4. And that's the point where you're like, okay, that is actually super annoying to deal with. In addition, you get a second way to give a unit a 4-up invuln in that army, and that is also the point where you present 40 Zangors right to your opponent's face, with all of it has a 4-up invuln, and it's just very hard to get through, and then if they live, and they probably will, you're obsec on objectives, or you're resurrecting like a whole bunch of models every turn. It's very annoying, and you can still take your Terminators, because even though your army loses its 5-up invuln, the Spawn and the Zangors don't. And the Terminators are Terminators, so they have a baked-in 5-up invuln, so they're not losing anything. I think it's a very strong way to play 1,000 Suns, and I think it deserves some experimentation, which we'll probably get on the table at some point in the future. But in that army, I think Zangors are a tournament staple. Otherwise, I think they're perfectly balanced, so I think on balance they're going to fall into strong choice.
I don't think that's how we should do it. You know, like in one specific build or tournament staples, acknowledged, everyone knows. If you're watching this video, you now know that because Jack just talked for 5 minutes. But I think in a real Thousand Suns army, they are perfectly balanced. They're like a little better than cultists. They are literally better cultists. So I think we should put them there. Definitely not the top of that end.
Well, in the army of renown, they do get quite a bit better.
Okay, but we've made that point clear. I'm thinking of all the people who are going to not watch the video and then skipped right to the end. I'm talking to you people. And then
comment, what about in the army of renown?
And you know, yeah, so we've acknowledged it preemptively. Fine. There you go.
We'll put it there.
Fine.
And
everybody's favorite, the Chaos Vindicator. Everybody's favorite. I do mean that sincerely. This guy is not the worst choice you could make. He actually has a 5 invul because Thousand Suns, and then he's like toughness 8, which is pretty good.
It's not that
Armor
expensive. I mean, it is like 140. It's toughness 8.
You buy it that shield that's +1 save.
You can't buy the shield in Chaos, I believe.
The shield is in the picture.
Yep, I hear what you're telling me.
Okay, so forget the shield, apparently, because Chaos tax. But
I believe you can't take it.
5 up invul, armor, contempt, toughness 8, 140. Not great, a little too pricey for my taste. Fires its ridiculous cannon, which is super hyper unreliable. And, you know, you take a couple of them and maybe you hit the lottery. That just happens sometimes.
Yeah, you can take a couple of these 140 point.
I think it's like as good as a Mauler Fiend or Forge Fiend, really. It just kind of drives around.
Probably.
It's like it just drives around. It tries to soak your
weirdly
hits.
efficient.
Yeah,
it's not good though.
It's definitely not
efficient.
It's not good at its job, but its job is kind of useful.
Yeah, it's just a brick that moves around and it's just annoying to get rid of and shoots a gun that can kill stuff. Yeah,
don't look at it as like, I'm taking a Vindicator, I'm going to blow this thing up. It's going to lead to a path of sadness and disappointment. Look at your Vindicator as an overpriced Rhino that has a cannon.
Yeah, that's probably the way to look at it. Shield
it's a lot tougher.
Apparently might be an option. I don't know. I didn't see it. I believe I didn't see it in the Codex. My trip down Vindicator Lane was a while ago, so I did take a look at it and be like, oh my god, these are actually kind of cheap.
Every player ever has had a trip down Vindicator Lane.
Yeah, it was a bit ago, so I can't remember exactly what was wrong with it. Maybe the shield got FAQ'd in, maybe it's in the book and I missed it, maybe it is in the book and I saw it and I just forgot since then. Either way, I think it ends up right here. It's like, fine.
It's aggressively okay.
Yeah, it's not even aggressively okay enough to make perfectly balanced.
No, it's like aggressively like mediocre.
All right.
So that's Thousand Suns, though. Not the most internally balanced codex, but a lot of it is perfectly balanced. Although there's some strong choices, some choices that we already knew were going to collect dust, the ones that GW kind of doesn't give as much attention to. It's a shame they're meeting with Vortex Beast, one of the Thousand Suns kind of staple, like iconic units. It's just not great, but overall, it's a cool army. It's got a lot of unique styles, a lot of unique play, and it's got good stuff going on. You could make an army out of tournament staples, and that's a super competitive list.
That is what people usually do. They take tournament staples, they take like a strong choice. The Contemptor is Forge World, but I think it would go right into tournament staple.
I don't think so. I've ran it a couple times now. I think it's fine. You can use the Orrery to make it ignore the hit mods, wound mods, and the damage reduction, which is great for a 2 damage spamming weapon, or even the plasma cannons. You buff its strength. All of those things that we talked about are there. But it's in the world of Armor of Contempt, it just doesn't, the Volkites don't do that much anymore. And the plasma cannon version, I just think it's way too inconsistent. I think it's a perfectly balanced, strong choice. I think tournament staple, it's not even in my list right now. But
I think strong choice then.
Yeah.
I can't put it in the same tier as the perfectly balanced stuff.
No, that's true. It's better than that stuff. So that's it, though. I hope everybody enjoyed this tier list. We had a blast doing it for you. Don't forget to please like, share, subscribe to our channel. Subscribing to our channel empowers us to let us keep doing these videos for you. We really couldn't do it without your support, so it means a lot to us. If you're new to our channel, we do lots of competitive 40K content, and we have a war room, which is where our members go. That's where all of our premium content is. We teach strategy sessions, have multiple coaching games per week where we teach you the mindsets of a top player and how we actually think about the game, what we're doing, what we could be doing, all that. Faction clinics, Meta Mondays, all kinds of good stuff. And you get access to a Discord community, which is really awesome. You have to pay to get into it, so it's pretty filtered. It's all people who are very interested in getting better at 40K, positive attitudes, positive environment. So if you're trying to enjoy your hobby more and learn more, you can check it out.
All right.
See you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
There's so many rules in 40K, hundreds of events, and constant updates. Skip the learning curve of Warhammer and join the pros. Art of War is led by multiple world champions with decades of success. We teach clinics, stream games, and inspire you to succeed at your favorite hobby. Join our global community of gamers just like you.